Hey, what's up guys, Grace here, and today I'm going to bring you 10 of the most important lessons that I have learned after extensively playing through the Cataclysm event. These will save you a lot of headaches in the long run, but most important of all, they will teach you how to maximize your score in the time you're spending in the new map, and as a result, also the amount of high-end items that you're going to be able to afford. Just playing in a more efficient way has been of tremendous help to me, as I was able to grab way more legendaries than I ever could in the normal content, so make sure you drop a like on this video if you also want to get better loot, and let's get started. Right off the bat, the first thing you should look at even before starting up the Cataclysm is your difficulty setting. The reason for that is because difficulty alone has a huge impact on the bonus points that you get at the end of the expedition, and as such on the number of crystals. To give you a comparison, running the first 3 arenas and the secret events between them on Grandmaster 1 gave me roughly 500 major crystals on average. That is the equivalent of one whole war chest for the 10 or so minutes that I needed to complete that, which is not that bad, but if I run the same route on Grandmaster 2, the bonus points I get at the end are almost doubled compared to just GM1. In this case, GM1 gave me roughly 350,000 bonus difficulty points, while Grandmaster 2 gave me almost 630,000. So the difference between just these two difficulty settings is simply staggering, and the gap is going to be even greater once you jump into Grandmaster 3. Also remember, all of this comes on top of the already existing drop rate bonus that each difficulty setting has over the previous one. I do recommend having a decent power level before attempting higher difficulties, so at least 750 to 800 if you're planning to play on Grandmaster 2, but until then get started with GM1 as it still provides good enough rewards. Moving on to number 2, another great way to massively increase your score is to play around the instability mechanic. This is basically what's draining your resistance bar when you're out in the open, and if you're not being careful enough, it can definitely destroy you, but it's not there just to punish you, don't worry about that. In fact, it's kinda like a double-edged sword, as in it also doubles up whatever current score multiplier you might have while you're under its effect. This means that the maximum modifier of 8 that you can get by completing all of the events in the Cataclysm map will be doubled to a maximum possible of 16 as long as the instability is running. So whenever you get inside the arena and still have plenty resistance bar left, don't immediately destroy the bubble in the middle. Instead, take advantage of the double score multiplier and try to take down as many enemies as possible in that amount of time. This eventually becomes very easy as you progress through each of these arenas and further extend your resistance bar duration to the point you'll almost forget about it in the later sections, which is when it all counts. Coming up at number 3, a great way to quickly travel through the main event map is to use the teleportation devices scattered all around it. There are about a dozen of these or so on the map, connected in pairs of 2, that can let you quickly travel from one point to another. They can work in both ways, so you can always return to the teleporter you initially used, and it's all of a matter of what kind of route you want to set up, because some of these teleporters can also make you skip bonus events that you might not want to miss otherwise. Personally, I'm a big fan of the first teleporter right outside of the first arena because it connects directly to the second sphere cache that gives a ton of points in a very relatively short amount of time. So I can quickly include that in my route and get more points, which would be otherwise hard as it is hard to travel over there in a short amount of time. Otherwise, there are a lot more, including the one underwater in the approach region that connects just outside Vera's room, so I'm going to post a link down below with all of the teleporters you can find on the Cataclysm map. At number 4, every now and then you will inevitably find yourself in the middle of the Cataclysm with no safety bubble nearby, which almost always guarantees your demise. There are a couple of things you can attempt to do here that will let you survive for longer. The first one comes in the form of these colored orbs that can be found in random places, especially in underwater areas. So if you've ever ventured too far and don't think you can make back without getting downed, maybe go for a deep dive in the nearest body of water, as there's a great chance you will eventually get one of these orbs that almost always fully replenishes your resistance bar. These can also drop randomly from enemies that you defeat, which means you can combine them with the second tip I give you on today's list to score a ton more points. Otherwise, keeping up an ultimate and using it just before your HP fully depletes can also save you in those last few steps. Coming up next, the 15-minute timer that starts going down as soon as you spawn in the Cataclysm map can be extended by more than a few means. Normally, you get the 3-minute extra from each main event that you complete, but that is by far not the only way. In fact, all around the map there are several time runes that each extend your timer by 1 minute upon activation. Some of the runes that I really like using are the first one slightly to the right side of my spawn point on the alien structure in the water. You kind of have to pay attention to it a little bit because it's on one of the faces that faces the room with the lava, so you kind of have to pay a bit of attention, but otherwise it's very easy to get. The second one is on the rock formation behind the second protective bubble up in its western face. So when you reach that bubble, just go ahead back, look at that huge mountain rock thingy, and on its western peak face you will definitely find the rune over there, and again it's on your route and it adds 1 extra minute, which is very helpful. There's a third one towards the castle event in this suspended cabin midway up on the wall, slightly to the left. It's the only cabin over there, so you cannot miss it. Just go to the midway of the wall right before going into the next region. And of course the fourth one inside the container next to the stability zone on the beach in the Dominion foothold. Again, just pay close attention to it. It's right next to the stability zone and you really cannot miss it if you just tilt your camera a little bit. There are also about 2 more on top of these, like one very close to the same room with the teleporter inside the area where the last event is located in. It's a little bit tricky to do that. If you're doing solo, you're not always going to go in that zone, so you might only get to use this if you're playing with a party. I'm just going to post another link down below for that map so you can go ahead and follow everything that you need to know about it. Moving on to number 6, we've talked about plenty of bonus stuff in this video, but the Cataclysm event also holds a number of very good secret puzzle events that tend to reward a ton of points as well as counting towards some awesome achievements. There are 3 sphere caches that can be found in these precise 3 locations on the map, 2 of which I already mentioned in the beginning of this video, but I'm going to post a separate video on them as well. Then there's a Grab It King layer, an underwater secret cave that requires a bit of detouring from your main route to complete, but it is most definitely rewarding, and a final Dominion vault on the northwestern part of the map that is again also very rewarding. On top of these there are a lot of statues activated by pressure plates, bombs to expose crystals, all of which reward a ton of points and are fairly easy to complete once you learn them, and you will almost always include at least a few of these in your route if you want to maximize your score. Again, I'm going to post some videos on that as well, so make sure you stay tuned because it's definitely going to be worth it. But now that we have talked about secret stuff, that doesn't mean you should neglect the main arena events. In fact, the 7 main events that are also always visible on the map are pretty much your priority, as these provide the most amount of benefits. This includes the highest amount of score points, extending your event timer by 3 minutes each, the Cataclysm resistance bar being increased, and of course also adding a permanent multiplier of 1 each, up to a total of 8 for just completing these all. Again, full guide coming really soon because it takes a lot of time to explain everything in one single video, but you should always aim to complete as many of these as possible, if not all. All of them, or well, the vast majority of them can be soloed, though I will admit that 2 of them, mainly the Brittaheim and the Crucible of Astrid events, do require a bit of extra work, and again I'm going to post a full video guide on how to do these solo. But yeah, these feature all different puzzles. The objective is always going to be the same though, so you're always going to have to expose and destroy the crystal in the middle to finish the event and conquer the arena. I suggest you start coming up with your own route once you nail down the fastest ways to reach and complete each event, once you nail down everything. At number 8, and probably quite an obvious one, is to complete as many of the challenges associated with the Cataclysm event as possible. Most of them you will complete as you play anyway, and many will reward you minor or major crystals as well as cosmetic items such as wraps and vinyls, so definitely a ton of options and a ton of ways to get additional loot. But the most important ones are of course the daily, the weekly and the monthly, since these are also repeatable and again provide bonus loot, or at the very least bonus ways ways of getting more loot. If you check the ongoing section, 4 of the daily challenges will be specific to each javelin, while there might be an additional 1 or 2 on top, again also very useful. The javelin specific ones all require the same thing, and these are the most important of them all, as in for you to complete 3 events in the Cataclysm area with that specific class. The 3 events can be 3 arenas or a mix of arenas and other secret stuff over there, so they don't take too long to finish, and you don't even need to complete the entire map to finish this challenge and get its rewards. Doing this will reward you one of the new items for the class that you're using, depending on the war chest in the seasonal store. So for example, if there's a melee war chest currently in the seasonal store and you complete this challenge, the challenge will roll one of the items in that melee war chest for your specific class. This is the only way to get an item for your specific class. This brings us to the next tip, and also possibly the most important of them all. It goes without saying that you should always make sure you defeat Vera, the end boss of the Cataclysm area, no matter what. The reason for that is because she will double up your entire score for a ton more crystals, and as such a ton more chances of getting more loot. If you go straight to her for an early defeat, then be warned that she doesn't provide a good score, and she is only useful for that double multiplier. So the best course of action over here would be to run through as many arenas as possible, as many bonus and secret events as well, and keep Vera at the very end to double up your entire score. If you take advantage of all of the mechanics, know your way around and have enough DPS, you should have plenty of time to complete at least 5 arenas as a solo player or all 7 as a full party, with plenty of bonuses in between, and still have enough time to defeat Vera. Generally speaking, you will need about 3 to 5 minutes to defeat her depending on your DPS, so keep the last few minutes specifically for that. Otherwise, if loot drops is all you want, then yes, you can rush her as she drops some really good loot, likely making her the easiest to reach boss in the entire game so far, and probably the easiest method to just get loot drops to begin with. The final point I wanted to make is to not forget about the free play. The new anomaly encounters that only spawn in it are pretty fun and on a rather short duration. They also spawn a ton of high-end tier enemies, including of course the new bristleback enemy, so again that one also counts toward dailies, towards certain achievements. They provide the type of horde mode fight that many of us wanted from Anthem, and yeah, they also reward like 3 chests for the 3 tiers of challenges that you can find in that area. And again, these chests will drop minor crystals as well, not only just regular drops like gear, weapons and so on, so you don't have to fully rely on the Cataclysm map to get these. Additionally, the free play mode features the newly added nodes that drop the same crystals that we get to use in the seasonal shop, and yes, they also benefit from whatever harvest bonus you might have on your gear, but I believe with that we've covered everything that we needed to know in the latest event. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a thumbs up on it, it will definitely be super appreciated. Also subscribe for more awesome content like this and activate the notification bell, and I will see you guys later, so peace out.